Welcome to the Deep Dive Stock Explorers. Today we're zooming in on Vuzix, a company that seems to have caught your interest as potential investors.
Definitely.
And the space they're in, augmented reality, it's fascinating, especially with giants like Meta and Google also, playing in that field.
That's absolutely right. And Vuzix, their core thing is designing and making smart glasses. But critically, with a long-standing focus on their own waveguide optics.
Waveguides, okay.
Yeah, they really position themselves as sort of a key enabler for the next generation of AR. And it's a market people think could be pretty substantial by, say, 2030.
And part of understanding them now involves a shift, right, towards being a supplier.
Exactly. That move towards an OEM and ODM model supplying components and designs to others, that's really crucial to grasp, especially given the competition.
Okay, so let's get right into that. Meta and Google, huge names. What are they actually doing in AR, and how does Vuzix fit in or, stand apart?
Right, let's start with Meta. Their AR play seems very much long-term. You look at Area glasses, those are more about research, collecting AI data, not really for the user to see AR content.
Data collection, okay.
Yeah. And then there's the Orion prototype, which is more like a future concept for consumer AR glasses. They're apparently targeting a really wide field of view there.
But what about the Quest headsets people know now?
Good point. The Quest headsets, they do offer mixed reality, but it's through video pass-through. Cameras show you the outside world on the internal screens. That's fundamentally different technology compared to Vuzix optical see-through waveguides, where digital light is projected onto your view of the real world.
So Meta has the resources, the AI focus, a potential future competitor, but maybe not directly in Vuzix's specific niche right now.
Precisely. Long-term, sure, they're one to watch, but currently they're not really head-to-head competitors in Vuzix's main area, which is enterprise AR using waveguides.
Got it. What about Google then? Their history with glasses, well known.
Yeah, Google's AR efforts have been, let's say, a bit more varied, less consistent maybe. Recently, they showed an AI-focused prototype. It uses a single eye, so a monocular diffractive waveguide, and it can handle prescription lenses, which is interesting.
Okay, AI-focused, what did it do?
They demonstrated things like real-time translation, object identification, pretty compelling stuff, but reports suggested a somewhat limited field of view and maybe some issues with light leaking out the front.
Doesn't sound quite like a finished consumer product yet.
No, likely still deep in development. And you have to contrast that with things like the discontinued Project Iris headset, or even the older Google Glass Enterprise Edition 2, which used a prism, not waveguides.
Right, different tech entirely.
Exactly. It shows their strategy is still evolving.
Yeah.
But, they have made acquisitions like North and Raxium, signaling they are investing in the underlying hardware tech.
So Google versus Vuzix today.
Well, that prototype seems more consumer or maybe prosumer focused, and it's monocular. But the big picture is, if Google eventually launches a really polished AR device, especially running on a solid Android XR platform, that could absolutely be a major long-term challenge for Vuzix.
Okay, that gives us a good sense of the competitive pressures. Let's shift focus directly to Vuzix now. What are the key points for investors? You mentioned their commitment to waveguides. Why is that so central?
It really is. Vuzix has been hammering away at waveguide technology for a long time. They fundamentally believe it's the only way to get truly lightweight, comfortable, high-performance AR glasses.
Like normal eyeglasses eventually.
That's the dream, yeah. And they've built up a pretty formidable patent portfolio around it, over 425 patents and pending applications now.
Wow, that's significant. Can you break down waveguides simply? How do they work?
Sure. Think of light trapped inside a very thin piece of glass, like shining a laser pointer into the edge of a window pane at just the right angle. The light bounces along inside, that's total internal reflection. Then you need tiny, precisely engineered structures couplers to get the image into the waveguide from a tiny projector, and then other couplers to kick the light out towards your eye, expanding it so you see a large virtual image overlaid on the real world.
And Vuzix makes these themselves.
They do. There are different ways to make these couplers diffractive, reflective, holographic. Vuzix likely uses a mature type called surface relief gratings, or SRGs. They work well, but sometimes you can get slight color fringing, chromatic dispersion.
So Vuzix is essentially betting the farm on this specific optical approach, believing it's superior long-term to, say, Meta's video pass-through or whatever Google finally lands on.
That's a fair way to put it. They're making a very deliberate bet on optical see-through via waveguides. Now, tied into that is their business strategy, which is kind of two-sided.
A dual strategy. How so?
Yeah, they have their own Vuzix branded smart glasses that they sell directly, primarily to businesses, but they're also increasingly acting as an OEM and ODM supplier.
Meaning they sell their core tech to other companies.
Exactly. They supply the waveguides, maybe the display engines, the know-how, so other companies can build Vuzix tech into their products.
Interesting. Let's touch on their branded products first. What are the main ones?
Okay, you've got the M series, like the M4000, there's the Blade 2, and the Shield, mostly enterprise-focused. The M4000, for example, is a monocular, see-through waveguide display, uses a DLP projector, full color, very bright, like 5,000 nits, plus it's ruggedized, even has medical certifications.
So for tough jobs or specific medical uses, and the Blade 2.
Blade 2 is sleeker, more glasses-like, also a waveguide, possibly micro-LED OD now, monocular, full color again, and it meets ANSI Z87.1 safety glass standards.
Safety rated. Okay. And the Shield, you mentioned that one earlier.
Right. The Shield is pretty unique. It's binocular waveguides for both eyes, but uses monochrome green micro-LED projectors. The big deal here is brightness. Extremely high brightness, over 4,000 nits ANSI. Plus safety ratings like ANSI Z87.1 and European standards. Very minimalist design.
Monochrome green, but super bright. Suggests very specific uses where maybe color isn't key, but visibility and bright light is crucial.
Exactly. Think certain industrial settings, maybe logistics, outdoor work. Now that other side of the strategy, the OEM ODM part, that seems to be gaining a lot of momentum and is probably key to their future scaling.
Okay, tell us about that. What evidence are we seeing?
Well, they recently announced a design win and an initial order, 6 figures, from a European OEM. They're providing custom color waveguides for smart glasses designed for thermal imaging.
Thermal imaging, interesting niche.
Yeah, and what's telling is this deal came after nearly 2 years of development work. It really shows you the long sales cycles involved in these OEM partnerships. There was also mention of a major contract manufacturer potentially involved, maybe Quanta?
And speaking of Quanta, they invested, did they?
Big time. Quanta Computer put in $20 million, a strategic investment. The idea is Vuzix becomes a primary waveguide supplier to Quanta. Quanta then integrates these into products they build for various global OEMs. It's a channel partnership, essentially.
Leveraging Quanta's manufacturing scale.
Precisely. And they've even co-developed OEM reference platforms to make it easier for Quanta's customers. There's the Ultralight Pro with a full-color LCOS display, and the Ultralight Audio with a monochrome micro-LED.
So offering ready-made starting points for other brands.
Right. And one more piece emphasizing this OEM direction. Vuzix acquired an R&D facility down in Silicon Valley. Apparently it has advanced tooling for making waveguides like ion milling, and its location is obviously strategic for potential collaboration with, the big tech players nearby, maybe even Meta or Google someday.
Okay, so strategically, the shift to OEM seems well underway, leveraging their core tech. But the financials, always the crucial part for investors. How are they looking?
Yeah, this is where things get a bit more challenging. If you look at the full year 2024 results, overall revenue was down quite a bit from the year before.
No, it should.
But the fourth quarter did show a slight year-over-year increase, so maybe a sign of stabilization. Still, they reported a gross loss and a net loss for both Q4 and the full year.
Losses are never good. Any context there?
Well, a significant chunk of those losses came from non-cash charges. Things like writing down the value of some assets, impairment, and writing off older inventory.
So accounting charges impacting the bottom line, not just pure operational cash burn.
Partially, yes. But the underlying issue is still that revenue isn't high enough yet to cover costs. They have cut operating expenses, which is good, through cost management, but OpEx is still pretty high compared to the revenue they're bringing in.
And cash flow, how much runway do they have?
That's the key question.
Yeah.
They ended 2024 with a certain amount of cash. They also expect more money coming in from that Quanta investment in tranches, but based on their burn rate, that cash might not last indefinitely.
Meaning they might need to raise more money?
It seems quite likely. They have an at-the-market or ATM facility set up, which lets them sell shares into the market. That's one way to raise funds, but it also means potential dilution for current shareholders. So achieving profitability is still the major hurdle. It really depends on significantly ramping up that revenue, especially from the OEM side, and getting their gross margins up.
A lot hinges on those OEM deals scaling up then. Okay, besides the financials, what else should investors keep an eye on? You mentioned patents earlier.
Definitely the IP. That huge portfolio of over 425 patents and applications, especially around waveguides, is a major asset. It gives them leverage in OEM talks and helps defend their tech.
Makes sense. What about AI? Everyone's talking about AI.
Vuzix's approach seems to be more about enabling AI on their hardware rather than developing deep AI capabilities themselves. They partner with software companies.
Like who?
Examples they've mentioned include Transcribe Glass, which does speech-to-text on their Z100 glasses, or Mentra, whose AugmentOS platform brings pre-enabled AI features to the Z100. So they provide the platform, partners bring the AI smarts.
Seems like a sensible strategy for a smaller hardware company. Okay, wrapping things up, what are Vuzix's key, unique selling points? Their advantages?
I'd point to a few things. One, specialized industry certifications, medical safety that opens doors in regulated markets. Two, their growing capability through OEM to create custom hardware solutions for specific applications.
Tailored solutions.
Exactly. Three, their experience in enterprise deployment, things like mobile device management support, which big companies need. Four, potentially more agility and customization flexibility as an OEM partner compared to maybe the giants. And five, specifically for the Vuzix Shield, that super high brightness monochrome performance is a real differentiator for certain outdoor or industrial tasks.
Okay, so summing it all up, Vuzix is in a tough, competitive market. Big players like Meta and Google are looming large.
Absolutely. It's a dynamic landscape, no question.
But their strategic shift towards being an OEM ODM supplier,
Yeah.
leveraging that deep waveguide expertise and their patent library, that seems like their chosen path forward.
That really appears to be the core strategy now, yes. And it's probably the most critical factor for investors to evaluate.
So for anyone watching Vuzix, the key things to monitor would be, are they landing and, more importantly, scaling those OEM deals? Are they making steady progress towards profitability? And can they keep that technological edge in waveguides as the whole field evolves?
Couldn't have said it better myself. Those are the crucial questions.
Excellent. Well, that was a really insightful deep dive into Vuzix. Thanks for breaking it all down.
My pleasure. Always interesting stuff happening in AR.
And thank you all for joining us on the deep dive. If you found this helpful, definitely hit subscribe, give us a like, and maybe turn on those notifications so you won't miss our next exploration into the companies shaping the market.